Well, good morning. I am the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful downtown Madera. Welcome to today's show of New Thought Talk. So today what I want to do is talk to you about creating abundance in your life. Some people call it prosperity, but I prefer to talk about abundance because oftentimes people get caught up in the idea of prosperity being simply a money issue. And although money is a part of abundance, it is not the only part of abundance as we go through our lives. So I guess what I'd like to do today is start with this idea of sourcing our source. Sourcing our source for our good. You know, how many of you out there today look at your employer, your spouse, maybe your parents, maybe some type of investment, or you see that your financial good comes from a particular source, or you see that your relationship good comes from a particular source. No matter what it is in your life, your source, and truly it is your only source, is that which we call God or Spirit. It is first cause, and it is the source of all the good that we experience in our lives. And when we can open ourselves up to understanding that it is our source of everything, all of a sudden the tables shift a little bit. Economies can come and go, jobs can come and go, houses can come and go, many things can come and go, but your source maintains itself and it's always there, which means that we are always at the edge of wonderful abundance in our lives. All we have to do is open ourselves up to it and to experience it. And that brings me to the second part of what I wanted to talk about as we're beginning this today, and that's something that we need to understand, that you, each one of you, each and every one of you individually is the most important person in your life. You know, it's very easy to get caught up in the idea that my spouse, my kids, my whatever is more important. And we make ourselves subservient to other individuals in our lives. We take second seat. When there's something to be shared, we put it off for ourselves and we give it to somebody else. And although we teach them, and it's important, we want our kids to understand that it's important to share, but we need to keep in mind an understanding that we individually, you individually, are the most important person in your life. You know, you can't give away all that you've got and maintain yourself. You've got to take care of yourself, and at the higher the level that you take care of yourself, the higher the level you maintain yourself, the higher the level that you love yourself, is the higher the level that you will be able to maintain, take care of, and love people in your lives. So keep that in mind. That's very, very important. So we have our source, and we know that we're the most important person in our lives. Well, let's take a look at our source for a minute. I say source is what we call God, or we call Spirit, first cause. You know, there's many people that teach this idea that God is something out here somewhere. I want you to consider a different concept. I want you to consider an idea that in the beginning there was only God, and here today there is still only God. Now, God is individualized in many different things. God is spread. But if God is infinite, and most philosophies, most religions teach this concept that God is infinite, then there can't be anywhere that is set aside to be separate from that which we call God. And I'm using the word God because that's most commonly understood, but there's people that they use the word goddess, or they use first cause, they use universal intelligence, they use Allah, they use Yahweh, they use Jehovah, and you know, the bottom line is it doesn't make any difference when we understand in ourselves that there is this one, and it's one that is everywhere. And so we have this, what we call our source. We understand that it is everywhere. There's nowhere that it's not. That means as I'm sharing with you today, I'm talking, the space between me and you, wherever you are, is filled with this wonderful divine substance that we call God. And it is here for us as the creative force. My goodness, how wonderful can that be? So when we find ourselves in a position that we finally recognize that it's time to change our lives, it's time to do something, where do we got to go? Do we have to pick up the spiritual phone and 911 somebody or something that's out there? Or do we just have to take the time to open ourselves in consciousness and turn within? Brings it kind of personal and close to home, now doesn't it? And so, moving along, then I want to take this idea of consciousness now, and we're going to lay that out here. Consciousness and life is consciousness. Consciousness is the who and the what we are. Consciousness is our thoughts, our thinking, and our memories. It is our personality. It is our individualized aspect of this thing that we call God. And it is each and every one of us. And so as we're going through our life, as we're dealing with things, you ever get in one of those situations where life's just a little tough, or the bank book is a little bit tight, the bills are a little bit high, the personal relationships are a little bit short, that job that you really want is just a little bit beyond your fingertips, there's just, it's just beyond you. Where are you going to turn? If you remember back in the 70s, the movie Ghostbusters, where are you going to turn? Well, here's where you're going to turn. You're going to turn to the divine creative force, that which it is not only around you, it is not only through you, it is not only in you, it is as you, and it is you in an individualized aspect. So we go to ourselves in that state of meditative prayer consciousness, and we begin to open ourselves up. When God created everything. And God created everything in an abundance. So basically everything that you want, need, or desire is already here for you. And you say, well, Rev Steve, that's fine, but I'm not experiencing it in my life, so what's the story? Well, here's the story. It's all here for you, but you've got to open up the channels of receiving. You've got to open up the idea within your consciousness that all the good that is available to you can be here for you to experience. And oftentimes we raise our kids in this, our children, and the world teaches us in an understanding that there is lack, there is limitation, there is disease, there is famine, and there is a whole litany of things that you can pick up on the evening news. But, there's also an abundance of everything. And the abundance of everything is here, but you have to understand that the lack, the limitation, the disease, the poverty are states of consciousness. There's that word again, consciousness. Where we're at in consciousness determines where we're at in life. And one of the things that we like to say in New Thought is change your thinking, change your life, change your consciousness, change your life experience. And that's why today I want to talk to you about these things, because there really is a good that is available to you. There really is a wonderful life that is available to you, and it's available to each and every one of you. People say, well, gee, what do I have to do to qualify it? How do I have to be, what do I need to be worthy enough? And the thing is, by the mere fact that you breathe, you are worthy enough, because that which put the life spark within you, as it created you with all the good that you could ever need. And the desires that you experience in your heart, where do you think those come from? They come from the creative force of the universe, that first cause, that universal intelligence. That's what puts the desires within you. And so as it puts the desires within your heart, it also lays out for you a table of abundance to fulfill those desires. But how do I get from here to there, you say, Rev Steve? How do I make that connection? Well, the first thing you got to do is understand that you're worthy enough, because we get caught up in the stuff. So let's just take a look at this for a second. How do I know that I'm worthy? Well, the first thing I know that I'm worthy is I stop complaining about myself. I stop complaining about those issues in my life. I stop complaining about things outside of myself and seeing them as cause. Because I'm the most important thing in my life. I'm the most important person in my life, and I am worthy. Well, if I'm the most important thing and I'm truly worthy, and there is a creative force in the universe that is infinite, it's all power, it's all knowledge, it's all present, then I've got to step up to the idea that somehow I can make that connection. So what I want to do is put it in my mind that I have an ability, I have a way, I have the power in my life, and I have the responsibility to take over control of my life. I have the way of not being subject to the vagaries of whatever's going on out there. You know, we all have that out there. We have that person, that place, that thing, that job, whatever. But it doesn't make any difference. So as we go into our second segment after we come back from our commercial break, I'm going to start talking about how we can set the foundation for the abundance of the good in our life. So be prepared, grab a pen, this is your time, paper, pencil, or whatever, get ready, come back, and I'll see you after our commercial is over.
Hi, I'm Greg Rude, a local real estate agent working with London Properties. You might be thinking about buying or selling a property right now, or maybe you just have a question about real estate. I'd love to help you with that. Give me a call at 352-7716, and I can answer any questions that you might have. Maybe you've got a property that's upside down. Maybe you're interested in buying a bank foreclosure and have a question about that. Or maybe you just like someone to show you some houses that you're interested in or have a question about a particular property. Once again, give me a call. My name's Greg, 352-7716, and I'd love to help you. Thanks.
This just in. Tower District houses are selling for as little as $300 per month. If you have a job and decent credit, you can own your own home. If you can come up with a down payment, you can own a home a lot cheaper than you can rent, and your payment will never go up. Also, you could deduct most of your house payment from your income taxes. If you'd like to lock in your monthly house payment at $300 to $500 per month for the next 30 years, call Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758. Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758.
Hi, I'm Jason Gabelli, and I'd like you to take just a minute and ask yourself a couple of questions. Are your needs being met in the real estate business? Are you getting all the latest technology that you need to be productive in this market? Are you getting the benefits that you deserve? Do you have enough leads? Are you truly making enough money for all that hard work and time you've been putting in? If not, you might want to give me a call and we can set up a confidential interview. At Connect Realty, we're one of the fastest growing companies around. There's tons of tools and benefits for agents, like freerealtor.com showcase listings, free unlimited virtual tours, free websites with nationwide IDX. We have free virtual back office, free compliance coordinator so that you can be paid right away. There's health insurance, life insurance, and the best part is the commissions start from 80% and go to 95%. And we have one of the best retirement plans in the whole industry. Now, I cannot possibly go over everything in just this short minute. Go to the website, careers@connectrealty.com, or feel free to call us at the toll-free number, or you can even call my personal line, 559-307-0550. I look forward to talking to you. Thanks.
This segment is brought to you by Corrine Hatfield of Platinum Mortgage. If you are thinking of purchasing a new home or refinancing an existing home, call Corrine Hatfield at 917-7111.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back to our show today. I am the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful downtown Madera. And today we're talking about creating abundance in your life. I'm glad that you joined us, and I'm looking forward to sharing this information. You know, the information that I'm sharing with you today is not new. It's not even relatively new. It's not even old. It's older than old. Some of it is ancient wisdom, and oftentimes we refer to our philosophy as New Thought, ancient wisdom. But want to share a couple things with you before we get into the segment. Ernest Holmes wrote in the 1938 edition of The Science of Mind, he says, "The world is beginning to realize that it has learned all it should through suffering and pain. Surely there can be no intelligence in the universe that wishes man to be sick, suffer, be unhappy, and end in oblivion. Surely if God or universal intelligence is imbued with goodness, then it could not ordain that man should ultimately be other than the perfect expression of life." And that is your legacy. That is your purpose for being here, to be the perfect expression of life. And in order to be the perfect expression of life, you need things to express with. And so how do you see those things manifest in your life? Well, the first thing you got to do, or you need to do, or I'm going to suggest that you do, is place a consciousness of the divine, having a spiritual understanding and connection to the good and the abundance that you have in your life. Now, oftentimes, this is easy when we think about, like, falling in love. Love is almost a spiritual experience. You feel it in your heart, your whole body, and that's a wonderful thing. But can you imagine that in every area of your life, that truly there is a spiritual connection, a spiritual expression that comes through you, and at the level that you open yourself up to this divine nature, at the level that you open yourself up to the God that is within you, to that level, it can work for you by manifesting through you. That's a powerful experience. It's a powerful thing. You are in command of an infinite power that is within you. And so you got to decide what you want to do, and then you got to get out of the way. And sometimes that's really hard to do. But it's like this, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, but if you have ever seen, like, the Kentucky Derby, and they get to the finish of the race, and the horses are close, and so they have what they call a photo finish, where they take a picture of the horses just as they're crossing the finish line. Well, this is what you need to do in your life, is to create the photo finish of what it is that you want to see expressed in your life. Hold that photo finish in your mind. And there are ways, and I'm going to talk about those ways today, that you can create that photo finish in consciousness in mind, but you have that photo finish in mind, and then you get out of the way. And you let God, you let Spirit create the race for you. You let it take care of the hows. Don't worry about the hows. As Emerson said, we got to get our bloated selves out of the way so that we can allow the divine to express. And so what we do is we realize that our desires, our true desires of our heart, if they are in alignment with the spiritual nature of the universe, are things that we can expect. I said expect, and I mean expect, to see created in our lives. But we've got to take that step of consciousness to get there. So to get started, you got to give yourself a push in the right direction. Acknowledge this divine presence. Acknowledge this divine power of God within you. And then, have you ever known somebody that all they seem to do is carry that dark cloud? If you remember, or if you've ever seen, and for those of you that haven't seen the old Peanuts cartoon, there was a character there called Pigpen, and whenever Pigpen would walk around, there was a cloud over his head and dust and stuff, but it was just always this dark cloud that he lived in. Have you ever seen people that are like that? No matter what's going on, it could be the most beautiful day outside, the most wonderful things going on, and they just can't quite step out of their complaints, their unhappiness, and oh my gosh. Well, you go from that to the people that are perpetually happy. Where do you want to be in this? Well, if you are an expression of God, and you are, and God works through you, and God does work through you, you're the director at this point. You direct the play. So you want to take and you want to begin to create a consciousness of prosperity in mind. You want to begin to be ahead of time that which you want to see expressed in your life. And how hard is that to do? You know, you say, well, gosh, I don't have a whole lot going on in my life. You know, I'm working at minimum wage or no wage. And what am I going to do, Rev Steve? And I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to stop right where you're at. You're going to stop in this instant right now, and you're going to take a look around you, and you're going to find those things in your life that you can start praising. You know, did you eat today? Do you got a place to sleep? Do you have a car? Do you have clothes to wear? Whatever it is, if you're a student, do you have, maybe the classes are a little tough, but you still have the school to go to. You begin to praise the good that you have in your life. And what this does is it begins to make us in consciousness focus on those things that we have in our lives that more often than not we just take for granted. And as we take it for granted, oftentimes we live in a level of what I will call ignorance, which is just basically a lack of knowledge of the good that's already there. When we begin to start praising, we begin to set up a consciousness of praising. And the more that we praise, the more that things come into our life to be praised. You know, this idea of like begins to attract like, and it works in consciousness. If we complain, we get more to complain about. If we praise, we get more to praise about. Life is a state of consciousness. Where do you want to have your consciousness? You want to have your consciousness in a life of complaints, or do you want to have yourself in a life of consciousness of praise? And I will tell you, people have taken just this one thing, and they have implemented it in their lives, and it has changed lives. It has changed people's health. People that have had ill health have taken and created a life of healthy abundance of health. People that have had no relationships, no friends, have created lives full of friends and full of loving relationships. People that have had lack, limitation, and poverty in their life have praised their way to financial abundance. It's just that simple, and that's something that you don't need special tools. You don't have to have a special implement. You don't have to buy anything. You start when? You start right now. You say, Rev Steve, the fact that I can watch you on this computer, and you are watching me on a computer, is something for me to be able to praise. And you can go from there, and you do it. You begin to shift in your consciousness. You keep God in the forefront of your consciousness. God is your source. If you remember in the first segment, I said we've got to source our source. It's not my boss. It's not the government. It's not anything else but God. So I've got God as my source. I'm beginning to praise the good things in my life, and I'm looking to take hold and control everything that I have in my day-to-day experience into how I respond to it. I begin to give up reacting and move into a response consciousness. Now, there's a couple of things more specific that we can start doing. And one of the first things that we can do in order to create a life of abundance is we start writing down what it is that is our desires. And you know, businessmen for eons have, and they put it in the context of goal setting and goal achieving, but it's older than that. It's an ancient tool for creating good and abundance in your life. You begin to write down, and you write down in detail what it is that you want to see and manifest in your life. You can put down the specifics, include the date when you want to see this done, and you read this every day, and you can rewrite it every day. There's some people that teach that rewriting your goals down every day, rewriting your desires down every day, it helps focus the mind. And again, this is a mind game. It's all in mind. It's all in consciousness because, like I said in the beginning, there was just this thing that we call God. Today, there is just this thing that we call God. So we hold this in mind, we hold this in consciousness, and God's good is available to you when you open your mind to it. And that's what these tools are about. We're opening our mind to God's good. So we're going to write down what it is that we want to have. And we're going to read that every day. We're going to take time to focus on it every day. And as we do that, we're going to begin to see things unfold in our life. We're going to take our complaints and put them on the shelves and bring in praising. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take, and these are gems, I hope you're getting them written down, but we're going to take and we're going to start picturing our good that we want in our lives. You know, we see pictures in our day-to-day life. If you watch the news or you read the newspaper of all the stuff that's going on in the world. And have you ever noticed how if it's bad, it's called news? If it's good, it's called a human interest story? Well, in my life, news is good stuff. And bad stuff is stories that I have no interest in at all. And if you begin to take and you create that kind of consciousness and you begin to implant pictures of the good that you want to see in your life, you begin to refuse to subject your mind to those things that are not so good in your life, or in life in general. You can do this. There's a couple of ways. One is to take time every day. And it doesn't take a lot of time. You just find a nice quiet place where you can sit by yourself, you close your eyes, and you begin to vision in your mind, see those images of the things that you wrote down on that list of desires that you got. You go through those and you see them as already being completed. You create that photo finish picture. About 10 minutes a day. It doesn't take much, but you can do this. You can do this. This is the wonderful thing about this. These things that I'm talking about, they're not magic. You don't need special skill. All you need to do is open yourself up to it and begin to do it. Now, that is the key. You've got to do it. I mean, you can say, gee, Rev Steve, this is wonderful. I've got all this stuff and the visioning and everything, but I'm not getting stuff in my life. And I say, well, are you visioning it? Well, I do once in a while. Do you write things down? Well, I do once in a while. If you want it, you got to go for it, and you got to go for it every day. It's kind of like a gardener. Now, you can go out and you can buy some of the most incredible seeds for some of the most beautiful produce and plants in your garden, but if you don't plant them, your garden's just going to be a bunch of dirt, and so it's not going to be productive. You're not going to get what you want. And you've invested a certain level of yourself in this, and you get nothing back. So you've got to do the stuff. So it looks like we're moving up on a commercial break. So we got some good stuff coming. I'll talk to you when we come back.
Mike Briggs Properties has a very special historic property for sale that can be used as a home or as a business. This classic California craftsman historical home is located in the Tower District, Fresno Heights area. The interior ambiance displays a heyday of craftsman aesthetics, substance, strength, symmetry, and casual grace. Elegantly appointed mahogany and oak structural elements integrate form and function in a harmonious flow from room to room in this two-story, 4,500-foot home. The property also includes a nearly 800-foot, two-bedroom apartment above the garage. This property is well suited for a professional office type of business or for a large family or combined living and workspace. The lot included with this property is park-sized with plenty of room for expansion or as a parking lot big enough to support a commercial business. For more information on this property, call Mike Briggs Properties at 486-6758. Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758.
Welcome to Johnny's Porch.
About that.
We have been doing this for a
that.
year. My memory of the porch is that it's very much where women ruled. It was almost a throne.
You going like this?
Oh, I'm circular. See, Southern folks are circular. What you said, preach. You want me to preach? Love sharing those things and those things that'll make you stronger and better and go for. I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Turn me around. Hey. Turn me around, ain't gonna let nobody. Okay, no more drama. To myself, I said self, myself said yeah.
That was a good one.
That was good, girl. I'm good. I'm for you become the best reflection of yourself. And what was that? The one God intended all along. We're going to get there together, I promise you. Thank God for the post. Amen.
You can advertise your business, your product, or your event on Central Valley Talk, the Valley's only internet television station. Several of our programs are also picked up on Dish and cable networks. For the best advertising dollar, call Central Valley Talk at 579-1360. This segment is brought to you by Blimpies in the Tower District. For all of your lunch and dinner needs, go to Blimpies in the Tower District.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back to our third segment. I am the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in downtown Madera. And today we've been talking about prosperity. And I got to tell you, I've got so much more to talk about, and time is just blowing by. So I'm going to move along here. One of the things I want to do is read you a little bit more from what Ernest Holmes wrote. But before I do that, Robert Collier said something many years ago, and he said, every condition, every experience of life is the result of a mental attitude. We can do only what we think we can do, we can be only what we think we can be, and we can have only what we think we can have. What we do, what we are, what we have all depend on what we think. We can never express anything that we do not first have in mind. And that was Robert Collier. So, we're talking about this concept, and it is a concept that basically it takes place in our mind. And as it takes place in our mind, then it takes place in our source. And our source is the divine creative force of the universe, and it is ever available to each and every one of us. So what Ernest Holmes had to say along those lines is we must be specific in what we do, and while at the same time never outlining how it should be done. In other words, we want to have that end picture in mind, but not worry about the hows. Remember, we are dealing with an intelligence, and it's going to evolve our concept exactly at the level that we involve it. If we bring Spirit God into our lives and what we do, then it can evolve our lives through the power and the presence that it has. If one can take a picture of his objective circumstances, what's going on in your life today, and picture it in his subjective mentality, and get a picture of what's going on in your subconscious mind, and I'm going to paraphrase this and not read it, but what we look at in our life and what we know exists in our subconscious mind, they are a mirror image of each other, because we create in our subconscious mind. Those thoughts that we carry of worthiness, of our definition of success, our definition of prosperity, and our understanding of where we sit in that sits in a level of consciousness below our conscious mind at the subjective level, and life mirrors back to us, whatever it is that we hold at that level. So if you're looking at your life today and it's not exactly what you want to see, know that you can change it. You have the power to change it, and you have the way to do it, and we're talking about that way. And so we talked about creating your prosperity in writing, creating it in imaging and visualization. I want to finish up on that. You can take People often make what we call a vision board, but some kind of a board. Bigger is better than smaller, and you put pictures on there of the things that you want to see made manifest in your life. You take time each day, preferably about the time you go to bed. So it's the last thing you see at night before you go to bed. You look up there and you see those things that you want to see created in your life. You take those images into your sleep time, and you help to drop them into this subjective level so that life can mirror those things back to you. The next thing that you want to do is you want to understand that we're going to speak to our good. We're going to speak to our prosperity. Remember I was talking about complaining. Complaining is praising, It's praising those things that we don't want in our lives. And what we praise, we raise in our life experience. So if you don't want poverty in your life, quit complaining about poverty. If you don't want loneliness in your life, quit complaining about being lonely. In other words, start being that which you want to see. If you don't have money, but you want to see prosperity in your life, start being prosperous in consciousness and praising the good that you have. You can do this with health or any other thing. So we want to make sure that we take time to do that. The other thing that we need to do is we need to clear out the clutter of our minds. Oh boy, don't we carry all the different memories of those people that said we weren't good enough, or we weren't this, or we can't have, or the angst, the irritations, the resistance, the anger that we hold, and oftentimes we carry we carry on conversations ourselves with those people. They're not here; they're long gone. They may be long gone, even out of life. They may have passed on to another existence, but we still carry those conversations, and each one of those things, they're like an anchor, and they hold us back. We got to clear those out. We do that. There is a very profound and wonderful and easy way to do that, and it's called forgiveness. And you say, well, Rev Steve, you don't understand what happened in my life. I don't know that I could ever forgive. And I do understand. We've had life experiences that are not necessarily things that we want to address or talk about. But you know what? There is something within you that can forgive that, and that is the God consciousness that is within you. We can call it the Christ consciousness. We can call it God within. And at that level, that is where the forgiveness can take place. You don't have to worry about it. You can turn it over to the God that is within you, the Christ consciousness within you. And at that level, that can do the forgiveness work that needs to be done, and you let it go. And at the same time, understand that you are forgiven, that there's nothing in the universe that has a clipboard with a lot of pluses and minuses on it that holds you accountable. That's an old paradigm. Speaking of old paradigms, there are people that teach that to turn to God to create abundance in our life, to turn to Spirit to see our good. They say, well, you can't use God. That's a terrible thing to do, or they have other names for it. They tell you that you're just here to live this life, possibly suffer or whatever. But take a look at the people that are telling you that. And generally, they fall into one of two categories. There are people that live prosperity principles. They're very successful. They have a lot of abundance in their lives, but they don't teach it. Or they're people that live impoverished, and oftentimes they live in a state of anger towards those that have, and they believe that life should be suffering. If God is infinite, and I believe God is infinite, and I believe God is good, like I was reading from Ernest Holmes in the beginning segment, what part of God condones suffering? What part of God condones poverty? What part of God condones those things that we see as terrible things in life experience? And I'm not saying that they're not here to be experienced, because they are, but we experience them in human consciousness. We don't experience them in the consciousness of the divine nature. So when people tell you that you can't or you shouldn't use these principles, keep in mind that there is a greater good in the universe than what some individual has chosen to hold their opinion to, because you can create and do good in your life. The final thing, and this is, there is a prosperity class that I teach by a fellow by the name of Stretton Smith. It's called the 4T program. And in that, he has what he calls the big frog. Now, if you have experienced any type of prosperity teaching, the big frog is this one very simple thing. And people sometimes call it measured giving. They call it many different things, but most all of us know it as tithing. And tithing specifically refers to the giving of 1/10 of our good to where we get our spiritual good. And that can be an issue. You know, I've heard many people say, you know, I go to my church and Rev Steve, all they do is talk about give, give, give. And there are some churches, there are some centers that they put it in those terms. But I want you to reframe this in consciousness. And remember, this is a consciousness game. We put this in this type of an understanding. As we create good in our lives, we want to seed further good to come to us, just like a gardener seeds his garden, as I was talking at the end of the last segment. We want to reseed, we want to put out, plant our fields for greater good to come. And the way that we do this is by tithing back to where we get our spiritual food, we get our spiritual good. And as we do this, there is a response that takes place. You know, people that have an issue with tithing, for the most part, are people that feel that if I give, I'm going to have less than. I'm not going to have enough to take care of my bills, my family, my life, or whatever. But let's reframe this. What if we looked at it like it doesn't make any difference because whatever I give is going to be replaced many times over? If we put it in those terms, the fear of being without, and that's, my friends, is what it is a fear of being without. It is a fear of lack, fear of not having enough, begins to fall away. When we begin to tithe in consciousness to our good, understanding that we're planting, we're preparing the fields for a future harvest, and that no matter what we tithe, it's coming back to us many times over. All of a sudden, the game plan changes. I want to read you something. This was written many years ago. It's included in the Old Testament in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 10. God challenges his people when he says, "Bring all the tithes into my storehouse, that there may be food in my house, and try me." He says, "Try me in this," says the Lord of hosts. "If I will not open for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you such blessings that there will not be room enough to receive it." God challenges you. Put me to the test. See if I don't return to you that which you bring to me in a spiritual connection, not only pound for pound, if you will, measure for measure, but at such a level that you won't even be able to store it. It will be beyond your storage capabilities. And he goes on to say in the next verse, he says, "And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and so that he will not destroy the fruit of your ground, nor shall the vine fail to bear fruits for you in the fields." What God is telling you and what he's telling us is when you hook up your good to your spiritual connection, many doors open for you. It's no longer your boss, your company that pays you the income, but he will open up many other doors and prepare a way for you of good that is beyond your ability to even begin to comprehend. And all of a sudden, we have to open ourselves up to receiving our good from unexpected, new sources. And the amazing thing is when people get this, and you watch them begin to put it use in their lives, the miraculous things that happen. Their good comes to them in so many different ways. And it's like a miracle, but it's not a miracle. It's just God doing what God does. And this is one of the most fundamental, basic, foundational principles of prosperity, is learning to tithe, learning to give where you get your spiritual food. And you'll see it come back to you. And so I believe we're ready to head into our last commercial break at this point in time. So we'll come back, we'll finish up with our last segment.
America's Sub Shop has arrived in the Tower District. Blimpie's is the best place to get delicious sandwiches, salads, baked goods, and smoothies at reasonable prices. You won't believe the great value of Blimpie's $5 combo deals. The fresh baked bread and big bowl taste will bring you in, and the friendly service and great prices will keep you coming back. A Blimpie sandwich is great on your lunch break or as a healthy meal for the whole family. Try Blimpie's today, located directly across from the Tower Theater. We know you'll love it.
Welcome to Voice of the Valley. I am your host, Kathy Wilcox. And two of Kathy's favorite things are going to be featured on the show today. Number one is money. Number two,
Fun moves. You can do it.
alcohol! My first guest.
Back and forth ever so gently.
I have to get up. I have to show you this dress because I think it was made for me. Doesn't this just scream Maryland? I'm dressed for my Christmas parade outing, as you can see. Reindeer.
Number one selling wine from Argentina.
Argentina.
Kathy Wilcox, Voice of the Valley. Wednesdays at 2 on Channel 43.
Hi, Bill Carmichael here, manager of Valley Gold Mine Fresno. I'd like to tell everybody that we've relocated to the Tower District at 1212 North Van Ness Avenue. If you have any broken or unwanted jewelry you'd like to get top dollar for, give us a call at 559-970-8660. Also, we're on the web at www.valleygoldminefresno.com. If you're the type that likes to entertain at home, we have some gold parties that we can tell you about. And also, if you have children in schools and they have trouble raising funds, we have a great fundraiser that works as well. Once again, my number is 559-970-8660. Thank you.
This segment is brought to you by David Parker from the law offices of Parker, Kern, Nard, and Wenzel.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back to our fourth and final segment today. This is New Thought Talk, and I am the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in Madera. So, as we go into our last segment, I want to pose this to you. You know, people come and they talk to me and they say, Rev Steve, I want to experience the abundance of God's good in my life. I want to see it make itself manifest. And we get to talking, and oftentimes I get from them a yes, but. You know, yes, I want to do this, but I can't. Yes, I want to do this, but this situation makes it a little more difficult. Well, what I want to tell you is a little story I want to share with you. It's an old story, so you may have heard it, but maybe you haven't. It's a story about a young man that goes to a great teacher, and he says, I want to be a great teacher also. And the teacher says, well, I don't think you want to. And the young man says, oh, yes, I do. I want to really bad. And so the teacher says, well, meet me at sunrise out here at the shore of the ocean. The young man thinks it's a little strange, but he says, okay. And so he's out there, and it's early, and it's cold, and there's the teacher, and he's standing about knee-deep in water, and he tells the young man, he says, come on out here. And the young man says, well, do I have to? He says, if you want to be a great teacher, you got to come out here. And so the young man does, and about the time he gets to the teacher backs up a little bit and tells the young man he's got to come back out. And the young man says, do I have to? And the teacher says, yeah. And this happens a couple more times, and now they're a little bit deeper than chest deep in the water. And the young man's, he's about at wit's end. He says, to himself, he says, I'm not learning anything. Why do I need to do this? And the teacher says one more time, come on out here. The young man begins to object, and finally he says, okay, but this is the last time. He gets out to the teacher, and the teacher grabs him by the back of the head, and he puts his head under the water. And he holds him there, and the young man is struggling and straining, and just as he's at the end of his breath, and he's about to expire, the teacher pulls him back up. And he comes back up, and he gets this big breath. And then the teacher turns to him, he says, when you want to be a master, at the level that you wanted that breath of air, then come talk to me. And that's the way it is, my friends. If you want to have prosperity in your life, if you want to have the good that God has provided for you in your life, you've got to want it and you've got to commit to it. And you make that commitment. You make that commitment to your time for yourself, to tithing, to where you get your spiritual good, to doing your meditation and prayer work, and you're going to see things in your life unfold in such a miraculous way. And I will tell you that today is not the last time we'll be talking about this. There's so much more. I'm running out of time, but I wanted to share those things with you, and we will get on to that in the future. Now, there's a couple things I want to do as we close down the day. We're going to put the address up for our center. If you have questions that you would like to send to me, you can mail them to Central California New Thought Talk at 218 South D Street, Madera, California, 93638. The address is down below there. Should you care to tithe to where you get your spiritual good, if you get it from this program here, you can mail it to that address down there. Send us a check, a money order, and we'd be happy to put that to work, seeing to it that this show continues. You can go to our webpage, which is maderasac.com, and we have a link there. It's on the main page. Down in the lower left-hand corner is a big purple spot that tells you where you can donate. But please make sure that when you make that donation that you notate that it is for New Thought Talk. And as we get many, many viewers, and I'm ever more surprised at the number of viewers that we get. And a lot of you viewers, significant number of you are not even located within the confines of the United States. There are places, there are centers, there are churches where you can go to, where you can hear the type of teachings that you get here on this show on Saturday, or if you happen to pick us up on a rerun. But there's some place that is near you, and you can go to a place called a link called findacenter.com or .org, or you can go to you can go there and you can look up locally wherever you're at. You can choose the country. If it's a state, you can choose the state that you're in, and you click on the link and follow it down, and you'll find some place that is near to you. And it is not specific to a particular philosophy. It covers New Thought in its broadest range, from unity, divine science, religious science, many other different New Thought teachings, but basically they're all pretty much the same. That's available to you. You can go there. You can also, if you are far enough away where you can't get to a center, you can go to another page that is called newthoughtlibrary.com. And if you go to that library link, you'll find a whole bunch of books that were originally authored by some of the early minds, the philosophers, teachers in the New Thought movement, and they're there available for you. There's lots of good reading there. Again, how bad do you want to see this in your life? Do you want to see it bad enough in your life that you're going to take the time to pursue these links and to check these things out, or do you just want to talk about it? And if you just want to talk about it, you're not going to see anything manifest in your life. As a matter of fact, talking about it and reading about it is not really going to do anything. It'll enlighten you a little bit, but you've got to put it into practice. This is a practicing philosophy. And folks, here's the good thing at the bottom of the program here. If you have a specific religious philosophy that is near and dear to you, you do not have to give it up. You do not have to walk away from it. You can hold on to your specific beliefs. You can hold on to your specific teachings. And you can take these principles and put them into practice in your life. They have been taught for thousands of years. They were taught again 2,000 years ago by a fellow that we call Jesus. They have been taught by the Buddha. They've been taught by Lao Tzu. They've been taught by teachers in the 19th, 20th, and now into the 21st century. And they are available to you. If you're not experiencing the good in your life that you think that you want, first I got to tell you, if you think you want to experience that, if you have that desire was planted within you from the divine presence. Honor that desire. Give in to that desire. Open yourself up and follow the threads, follow the teachings, put it into practice, see it experience in your life in a wonderful way and a wonderful good. And there's the benefits that you will manifest in your life are beyond just financial prosperity or health or any other thing. Because as you begin to grow, as you begin to put these principles into practice in your life, you will begin to influence other people. People will see you. They will want to know what it is about you that's changed. What is it about you that is so magnificently different? And you'll be able to share that with them. You will become a teacher in your own right. And that's not a bad thing, my friends. That's not a bad thing at all. You see, ultimately, what this does is it makes each and every one of us responsible for the life that we live. We see our source as the divine creative presence. It's not something out there. It's our source for our happiness, source for our health, source for our financial abundance. You only have to go as far as your heart and your mind. It's there for you. It's there for you to experience. Open yourself up to it. Step out of the darkness, walk out into the light. You know, darkness is nothing more than the absence of light. Let that light into your life, and you will begin to see and experience a life that maybe you've wanted but never been able to imagine that you can have. It's there for you. It's there for you right now. Just like God challenged his people to give to them, to put him to the test, to see what can happen. I challenge you today, put this to the test. Try me. Try me and see if it doesn't work. And write me and let me know. I'd love to hear from you. So I'm getting ready to close. I want to take this time, as I do each week, to share with you this thought. May the light of God surround you. May the love of God enfold you. May the power of God protect you and the presence of God watch over you. For truly, my friends, wherever you are, God is, and all is well. Thank you, and make it a great week.
CentralValleyTalk.com